The latest State of the Heart report by 6 Seconds says that burnout may be the new pandemic. With just a few weeks to go before the end of the year, many people often go through what is termed year-end fatigue. But according to health experts, tiredness or fatigue may actually be burnout, which may be more serious. So, what is the difference? The founder of Engaged Humans, Paula Quinsee, is in studio with us. It's great to see you. Thank you very much for coming in.
Thanks, Michelle. Good to be here.
So that's the question, right? Am I tired? Am I just experiencing a bit of year-end fatigue? It's at the end of November. Or is it a step further, and is it burnout?
So a lot of people coming to this time of the year do feel tired. It's been a long year. Some people, one person explained it to me, they feel like they're hanging on by their fingernails just to get to the end of the year so they can go on holiday, you know. And it's normal to feel tired and that, but the key difference is when you're tired and you can't take some time out for yourself and you are able to replenish your energy levels, you can bounce back and you can still function normally and optimally.
Right.
Whereas burnout is very different. It is an ongoing sense of being completely depleted, mentally, emotionally, physically. You're just completely exhausted and it affects your daily functioning. You're operating from a day-to-day perspective. Yeah.
The information that I have here in front of me from some of the findings by this State of the Heart report puts it quite well. Is burnout caused by overwork? And the answer is no, right? It's more of an emotional state of being.
Yeah, I think over the years we've kind of been conditioned to think or associate burnout with being overworked and overloaded. There is an element of that, but what's coming out in the latest research is actually due to connection. Feeling connected to yourself, feeling connected to, you know, the people in your workplace and your work and having it, you know, some sort of meaning or purpose to it, and feeling connected in your personal space as well.
I want to delve deeper into, you know, what makes up that connection. So there are symptoms, defining symptoms of burnout, right? And one of those is a perceived, exactly what you've just talked about now, perceived lack of social support or a lack of community, and that can be in your private life and in your workspace as well. That's just one of the points here that define burnout.
Absolutely, and I think, you know, COVID kind of started that when we were all at home in lockdown and social isolation. We felt disconnected. And with remote working and hybrid working, you know, in the workplace, we're not as connecting as much as we potentially used to by being in the office full time. We also misunderstood the informal connections and interactions that we have in the workplace. So around the coffee station, around the water cooler, popping my head into your office, going, hey, have you got 5 minutes to chat with me quickly? We underestimated the impact of human connection and what that does for us in feeling connected.
Yeah, because a lot of companies during the COVID-19 pandemic, that's what they did, right? They saw that there was a remote work possibility. It was working very well for them. In fact, some companies reported that their earnings actually increased, their productivity actually increased over that time, and so they've closed their offices. And their employees now work almost permanently, if not in a hybrid setting, from home. And it sort of leads me to my next question, Paula. You know, you talk about how the pandemic has contributed in this way. I wonder, insofar as that emotional part of burnout is concerned, whether some of the leftovers of the pandemic, what all of us went through during those COVID-19 years, the loss of loved ones and of family members, the change of our workspace, whether the way we're feeling now can still be attributed to the pandemic.
Most definitely, you know, because we all deal with trauma, and I'm going to say trauma, you know, because we all deal with it differently. We all process it differently. We went into survival mode where there was so much uncertainty about our jobs, our livelihood, the people we love and care about, the fear of stepping outside and getting this virus and not knowing what could happen. So there's been that trauma that we've experienced, and then on top of that, additional trauma around potentially people having lost their jobs, companies having closed down, those kind of things, and not necessarily yet having been able to process that trauma and deal with it. And now back into, it's almost like we've gone back to pre-COVID times. People are back in this busy, this hamster wheel and just being busy because of needing to almost justify their jobs and their salaries on the one hand, but at the same time, we've just gone back into normal mode, pre-COVID times.
Without perhaps dealing with what happened during the pandemic. So let me ask you this, Paula. Is there a difference country to country when it comes to, in your opinion, when it comes to not just fatigue, but if we take it further to burnout? So are the circumstances particular to us here in South Africa? Are there any circumstances that may contribute to the levels of burnout we're seeing? And I'm referring to, you were with us as we were doing the headlines. You were sitting here at the round table. The news cycle, the incredible amounts of gender-based violence that we see in the news, the economy, it's Eskom, it's load shedding. Are these particular things that contribute to our levels of burnout here?
Most definitely, because again, it puts us into survival mode, right? We're trying to survive around load shedding schedules. For those people that can't afford to implement any sort of backup systems from an affordability point of view, it adds an added amount of stress. We're trying to work around simple daily things like cooking, cleaning, washing, ironing, and then, functioning in the workplace as well. And then the cost of that, the financial cost as well on top of that. And then, of course, unfortunately, the reality of South Africa in terms of our crime statistics, the current campaign with gender-based violence is happening. We have one of the highest stats in the world, unfortunately, when it comes to crime statistics and gender-based violence. So, yes, South Africa has been seen, and the research shows we have higher stress levels and indicators than other parts of the world.
Wow. And I do hope that, our viewers who are watching can feel seen in this discussion, that you're not alone in the sense of burnout. I mean, I do feel in many ways that this is a discussion that we sort of have towards the end of the year every year, but something does feel different about 2023. So shall we talk about solutions?
Yes.
So first of all, how do I identify that what I'm experiencing is not just a bit of tiredness or fatigue, that indeed it is burnout?
So very simply, you've had a hectic day at work, you come home and you're exhausted, right? But after a while of relaxation or participating in something that brings you joy, a hobby, going for a walk, something like that, you kind of recharge your energy levels, right? And you kind of bounce back from that. Whereas with burnout, it's this ongoing sense and feeling of depletion, mentally, emotionally, physically. Even after I've had a night's sleep, I wake up and I still feel exhausted. It starts affecting my way of operating. I make mistakes. I'm forgetful. I lose joy in things that used to bring me joy. I start withdrawing from society or people and interactions that I love, and I start isolating myself because I just don't have the energy.
Maybe you get sick more often as well.
Absolutely. It can translate into physical illnesses, so backache, digestive issues, migraines, headaches, all of those kind of things, flu, all of those kind of things, because our immune system, our body is so depleted.
Yeah. So once I've identified that this is the case, how do I go about fixing it? I suppose that is maybe the even more difficult question, because you're in this hole, right? And what you're describing does sound awfully close to depression, Paula.
Yes.
At what stage do I then consult with my GP, get proper advice?
Definitely depression is a knock-on to that, or a very close cousin to it. And I think, first of all, acknowledging it to yourself, something's not right here.
Yeah.
That's the first step, because when you're honest with yourself, you can then be honest with others, right? And lean into the support structures that you have in place, family, friends, whatever, and then professionals, so doctors, psychiatrists, psychologists that can help you work through it. You, first of all, have an accountability and responsibility to yourself to take care of your own mental well-being.
Fill your own cup.
Because if you don't do it, nobody else is going to do it for you, right? So you have that responsibility. At the same time, from an employer perspective, you also have a responsibility in terms of employee wellness and well-being to put support structures in place in the workplace to assist your people to be well. Because your people are your business. And if your people are not well, your business is not well, right? So there's an equal responsibility there. And finding balance, and our balance looks different to all of us, depending on what's going on in our lives. And taking time out for yourself to practice activities or mindfulness or things that will help you find a balance and replenish your own cup.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just, while you're talking, looking at some of the pointers that you've put down for us as well. And I wonder how many of our viewers will relate to long-term burnout.
Yeah.
It really does feel that way at the end of 2023. And what you're saying is that it can take up to 2 years to recover from a severe episode of burnout. Why do you say 2 years?
So the research shows that when you've had or experienced a severe episode of burnout, right, your body is so depleted that you can't function, and it affects you internally as well. So I mean, I'm not a medical expert, but it affects things like your cortisol levels, which is a stress, triggered by stress, which can lead to adrenal fatigue and all sorts of other medical conditions, right? So to get your body right back, those levels all back in balance again, to get you to able to function again and think again, it can take up to 2 years.
Wow.
And so that's why it's so important for you to put steps in place to take care of your well-being and take short breaks during the day, take time out on the weekends and stuff to look after your own well-being.
You know, the thing about workplace fatigue and workplace burnout, does your research say anything about whether companies are meeting that target of ensuring employee wellness? There was definitely a push again after COVID-19, and that became sort of more of a thing that employers wanted to include in their their way of doing things. They wanted to ensure, they realized that there was this connection between employee wellness and ultimately your bottom line. Some people were going as far as implementing the 4-day work week, and they actually saw that their bottom lines were increasing. Are you seeing that connection still?
So during COVID and after COVID or post-COVID, a lot of companies were very proactive in doing stuff around wellness and taking care of employees. It's now almost, there are still a lot of companies out there that are very proactive and have built it into their strategies because they realize the importance and the value of it. There are other companies that are not as proactive. And it's, as I said, gone back to almost work as usual. And you need to get on with it now. COVID is gone, and we need to get back on and moving again with things, And the companies are also going through their own struggles around trying to make a profit, be stable, and, please stakeholders and shareholders and investors and those kind of things. So, they've also got a job that they have to do. So how do we find that happy middle ground? And how do we give employees a sense of autonomy and flexibility that they can manage their lifestyles and their responsibilities, and at the same time, how do we create a space where they can still deliver and that their contribution is meaningful and that it contributes to the business strategies and bottom line?
Yeah, and that ultimately is it. Employers, I would say, they don't leave, what's the saying? They don't leave bad companies, they leave bad managers, right? So there is definitely that correlation between employee wellness and ultimately the wellness of the company. And so those next steps of pleasing shareholders, etc., it comes naturally when you begin at the beginning.
Yeah. If your so your people will go where they feel welcomed.
Right.
Your people will stay where they feel valued.
Wow. And I think that's a good note to end off on and a good message to employers out there. Paula Quinsee, it's been a great pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much for coming on to the program. The founder of Engaged Humans. Some interesting findings here on the difference between just being tired, it is that time of year, and burnout. If any of this resonates with you, go and see your GP. Perhaps that's a good place to start.